Fatima never expected to be roped into a tea-tasting meetup by some chatty Parisian granny Marque d'Aliger. 48, she'd survived war, migration, and raising 3 kids solo. But this? Strangers sniffing chamomile like fine wine? Ridiculous. Yet here she was, clutching a chipped teacup, surrounded by oddballs debating floral notes. Laughable, until warmth seeped into her bones, untangling knots she'd carried since Damascus. Maybe resilience smelled like honey-steeped blossoms. Fatima never expected to be roped into a tea-tasting meetup, let alone in Paris, where her feet still hesitated on cobblestones as if they feared betraying her. 48, she carried her past like sugar cubes in that chipped teacup from home, dissolving bit by bit, never quite sweet enough for nostalgia. Market strolls were her rebellion now, fingers brushing lavender sachets while her mind replayed clatter of her mother's spoon against porcelain, a sound that clung like static. This city demanded reinvention, so she signed up for Meetup with a scoff. What could chamomile fix? Yet there she was, clutching her cup like a life raft, surrounded by strangers who spoke in steam and sighs. First sip, bitter. Second, warmth unspooling behind her ribs. By third, she caught herself laughing a joke she barely understood, her shoulders lighter than they'd been since flight that brought her here. Fear had been a locked suitcase she dragged everywhere, convinced opening it would spill everything she'd lost. But chamomile didn't ask for her story. It simply said sit. And so she did, one clumsy step toward trusting that roots could grow in borrowed soil. Teacup, once a relic of homesickness, now held Parisian afternoons, steeped slow, steeped new. Fam back home would have teased her for going soft. Let them. She'd earned this quiet rebellion, this proof that some storms could be sipped away. She never expected to be roped into a tea-tasting meetup, let alone one tucked behind a Moroccan spice stall in Paris's Marché d'Enfants Rouges. But there she was, 48 and fumbling with a delicate teacup, its floral pattern mocking her calloused hands. She'd come for mint leaves, not life advice. Yet when steam curled from chamomile blossoms, so did memories of her mother's voice. Drink this, Habibti, it softens edges. Edges she hadn't realized still cut so deep. Paris had been kind mostly, but kindness didn't erase paperwork headaches or subway maps that might as well have been hieroglyphics. That afternoon, though, warmth seeped past her fingertips as she inhaled. Around her, women of every shade and story cradled identical cups, their laughter stitching air like embroidery. No one asked for her resume or how well she spoke French. They just slid a plate of almond cookies her way and winked when she nearly spilled. By third tasting, she stopped counting wrinkles or grays. Instead, she noticed how light caught gold in her cup, how bruised sweetness bloomed slower each sip, like patience itself. Host, a Tunisian grandmother with bangles clinking, called it liquid courage. Not loud, fireworks kind, but quiet sort that steady hands and steep time. Weeks later, woman found herself leading her own corner of meetup, teaching newcomers to strain leaves just so. Her Arabic French slang drew giggles. Her oh la la, this one's stronger than my mother-in-law, became fam lore. Between pours, she scribbled recipes on napkins, her script looping freer than it had in years. One evening, as rain blurred market awnings, a young Syrian woman hesitated her table. She recognized hunched shoulders, too tight grip on handbag. Without a word, she pushed forward a cup. Girl's first sip was a tremor, then a sigh. Fatima hid a smile in her own drink. Some things needed no translation, not steam rising between them, not way a simple vessel could hold whole worlds. Fatima never expected to be roped into a tea-tasting meetup, let alone one hosted in a cramped Parisian bookstore where steam curled around self-help titles like judgmental ghosts. 48, she'd spent months mistaking her exhaustion for jet lag, her headaches for bad weather, until her daughter, ever relentless optimist, shoved a chipped teacup into her hands. Drink up, fam. It's cheaper than therapy. Market strolls had become her refuge, fingers brushing lavender sachets and overpriced figs, but today she lingered by chamomile buds, their honeyed scent tugging a memory of her mother humming over a stovetop back home. Irony wasn't lost on her, fighting stress with a drink that tasted like steeped sunshine. Still, she bought a pouch, stubborn as ache in her knees. First sip was betrayal. Weak, watery, a sad imitation of comfort. But Fatima wasn't one to fold. She boiled it longer next time, crushed petals between her palms like she was wringing out doubt. By third attempt, warmth pooled in her ribs, a quiet rebellion against cold bureaucracy of residency papers stacked on her counter. That chipped cup became her anchor, each hold a reminder that resilience brewed slowly. When Meetup Flyer caught her eye, she almost laughed. Strangers dissecting tea like wine connoisseurs? Absurd. Yet there she was, hiding behind a bookshelf, watching a man sniff his mint blend with theatrical solemnity. Her snort drew glances. Might as well own it. She marched a sampler tray, lifted her cup in a mock toast. To not losing our damn minds. Room erupted in cheers. Turns out, stress tasted better shared. She never expected to be roped into a tea-tasting meetup, let alone one in a posh Parisian arrondissement where her scuffed sneakers stuck out like a sore thumb. But here she was, clutching her grandmother's chipped teacup, one that had survived 3 migrations and 2 wars, while a room full of strangers eyed her like she'd brought a goat to a ballet. She'd spent months perfecting her chamomile blend, sneaking market strolls between shifts to find just right petals, whispering prayers over each steep. Stress had been her shadow since crossing continents, but this was her tiny rebellion. A 48-year-old woman with salt-streaked curls and a spine of steel, refusing to let fear steep any longer. When organizers announced an open mic for brewers, her knees wobbled. A sleek-suited man in front row smirked into his phone, probably texting some snark to his fam. Creator inhaled, squared her shoulders, and stepped up. Her hands didn't shake as she poured. Golden liquid swirled into that battered cup, its cracks catching light like veins of gold. She didn't give a speech, just held it out, to skeptic, to room, to city that had made her feel small. "Taste," she said, quiet as dawn. Silence. Then, slurping. Skeptic's eyebrows shot up. A murmur rippled through crowd. Someone gasped. Suddenly, phones were out, snapping shots of her cup, her hands, her unapologetic grin. A influencer type in cat-eye glasses blurted, "This is stress cure I've been scrolling for." Laughter erupted. Applause thundered. Fatima's chest burned, not with anxiety, but wildfire pride. That teacup, cracked, cherished, pivotal, had carried more than tea. It held her story, and as clicks and cheers swirled around her, she thought, "I'm writing my own damn story now." Later, as she packed up, Skeptic shuffled over sheepish. "Got any more of that magic?" he mumbled. Fatima winked, sliding him a sachet. For low price of believing in 48-year-old miracles. Paris didn't feel so cold after that. Fatima never expected to be roped into a tea-tasting meetup, let alone become its heart. Yet there she was, 48 and fierce, guiding a gaggle of nervous newcomers through Parisian market strolls, hunting for chamomile blossoms like treasure. Harod habit, sniffing every tin before buying, gotta feel vibes, she'd wink. That chipped teacup she carried from Damascus became a symbol, cracked but holding warmth, just like her. Week after week, her motley crew gathered, migrants, locals, even a skeptical baker who swore espresso cured stress, until Fatima's brew changed his mind. Laughter replaced trembling hands as steam curled between them. She taught them to steep patience, not just tea. Communities built sip by sip, she'd say, stirring honey into mugs like an alchemist. One evening, as golden light pooled on their shared table, Fatima realized her own shoulders had finally unclenched. Chamomile hadn't just eased stress. It wove a safety net of belonging. Now her fam passed ritual forward, one cup, one story at a time. Steep your resilience. Share pot.